Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update. Viewpoint.
Good afternoon to you. Now, the race is on. Nomination Day 2025 has set the stage for one of the most closely watched general elections in recent memory. Who's throwing their hat in the ring? Who's shifting grounds? And where are the surprise moves happening? Here's a quick recap of the key takeaways, including some surprises so far. The PAP has returned to power in the 5-member Marine Parade Bradwell Heights GRC via an unexpected walkover, the first since 2011. Workers' Party Chief Pritam Singh said his party's surprise pullout from the GRC is to give WP the best chance of electoral success. And Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat said he's not running this general election as he believes now is the right time to make way for a new team of capable individuals who are well placed to serve Singapore, quote unquote. The stage is also set for a 4-way fight in Tampines GRC, while PAP and WP will go head to head in Tampines Changkat SMC. Deputy Prime Minister Gan Kim Yong, in a surprise move, will lead the PAP against a WP team helmed by Senior Counsel Harpreet Singh for the new Punggol GRC. For more, let's speak with Nicholas Fang, Managing Director of Strategic Consultancy Black Dot and a former NMP. Nick, great to have you on the show with me.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for having me.
This is really turning out to be an interesting race, isn't it? You know, we've got Marine Parade GRC, which had been touted as a key battleground constituency. And in the end, the PAP sailed through with a walkover as the opposition did not field any team. What stood out to you most?
Yeah, I think it raises a number of interesting questions. First and foremost, it seemed to be quite an 11th hour decision. All indications seem to be in the run-up to nomination day that the WP would contest, given its sort of focus in the eastern part of Singapore. And, Marine Parade, East Coast were kind of viewed as potential hotspots for a political contest. So to then see no opposition parties filing papers today, and then that announcement that you mentioned by Pritam Singh confirming that they were not going to contest there, I think it has taken quite a few people by surprise. If you look at the comments on posts about this news online, I think there are a number of people who say they are residents who feel that they have been denied a chance of voting of a choice, and questioning why the WP decided at the last minute, why did they not step aside earlier and allow some other party to contest if they were not intending to do so. So to me, it raises the question of strategy. What was the calculus for them? Was it purely, as Pritam says, a resource issue? Were they potentially hoping to undercut the narrative that has been put about that, the WP is out there to deny the PAP a supermajority in Parliament? So by not contesting in every ward, does it, reduce or increase people's confidence in voting for the opposition? It's a bit hard to tell, but what it does look like is that they are certainly going to be, the WP are certainly going to be focusing on retaining their stronghold in Aljunied. I was expecting and maybe hoping to see one of their heavy hitters step away and contest in another constituency, as Mr. Latia Kiang did in the past. But Pritam, as the leader of the opposition, and Sylvia Lim as one of the stalwarts of the party, are both staying put there. And it's only Mr. Faisal Manap who's coming out to contest in Tampines. So, I think we'll all need a little bit of time to digest and try to read the tea leaves about the strategy from the WP side of things. But, it was certainly exciting for today. And I think it helps us to focus a little bit more on where the hot contests are likely to be in the next 9-10 days building up to polling day.
Now, talking about that, I want to talk about this election hotspot, I think. It's Punggol GRC. In another surprising move, DPM Gan Kim Yong will be leading the PAP against the Workers' Party to contest in Punggol GRC. How do you assess this change, considering the massive changes being made right now?
I think it actually builds on the first question, right? It was the WP's decision not to contest in Marine Parade Bradwell Heights that then allowed Manpower Minister Tan See Leng to move to Choa Chu Kang GRC which then freed up Deputy PM Gan to move over to Pongo. Pongo, as we have now heard, is going to see the WP sort of rising star, right? The guy that has a lot of buzz building around him, Mr. Harpreet Singh, a senior counsel, a very experienced lawyer, and now shaping up to be a fight between him and Deputy PM Gan. From what I hear on the ground and also in terms of what the observers are saying, Deputy PM Gan is very popular. He has, earned a lot of street cred in his work as part of the COVID task force, and he's now asked to lead the tariffs task force that is going to look at how Singapore should deal with the tariff situation and the global trade war that is brewing. So it has been quite clear that DPM Gan is a key member of Prime Minister Lawrence Wong's 4G leadership team. He has worked closely with the DPM Gan in the COVID task force, and he's now put him front and center in a number of key positions. So I think Pongo is, as you say, going to be one of the more exciting fights, and I think we can certainly see how the WP's new star, how his reception on the ground and to quote some other observers, how the WP brand has improved over the years or not, as it may be, and it comes up against a heavyweight like Deputy Prime Minister Gan.
Well, Nick, things are suddenly heating up. It feels a lot more competitive this time round. Let's talk about Tampines GRC, which is now a four-cornered fight with PAP, NSP, PP and WP in the ring. What do you think of the chances of the opposition party now securing a seat with this situation panning out this way?
Yeah, I think the conventional wisdom has always been that multi-cornered fights favors the incumbents because it, again, sort of dilutes the opposition vote when supporters of opposition parties have so many options. But again, if you look at how parties have branded and improved their standing in the broader society, the frontrunners have to be, the incumbent political party, the PAP, and the leading opposition with representation in Parliament, the WP. So, you have more options, but in terms of mind share and, which brand name is front of mind, I think it's still out of the opposition parties, it's still WP at the forefront. So potentially, we could still see a very clear fight between the PAP and WP there. And as I sort of said in the first question, you've seen Mr. Faisal Manap, who's a very established member of the Aljunied GRC team, stepping away to now lead the team in Tampines as well. So that is certainly an area that will be worth keeping an eye on. But, in terms of the four-cornered nature, I suspect if it had been just a straight-out head-to-head fight between two parties, that might have favored the WP a little bit more.
Okay. Now, let's take a look at West Coast GRC. We will be looking at a rematch between the PAP, led by Minister Desmond Lee, and the PSP, who's going to be helmed by former PAP stalwart Tan Cheng Bock. What do you make of this?
I think that's also going to be a tough constituency for the incumbents. As we know, in the last round, they were the most closely fought and the PAP winning by the smallest margin in West Coast. And I think the messaging from the PSP this time round has been that we are fielding really the PSP A team. You've got the two NCMPs, the non-constituency member of parliaments in Leong Man Wai and Hazel Phua. There was some talk on the ground that perhaps Hazel would step out and contest in maybe an SMC, but it looks like they're putting really all their eggs into one A-team basket, having both the NCMPs and, of course, PSP chairman Dr. Tan Cheng Bock in the team as well. And, of course, most recently we've heard this narrative that potentially this might be Dr. Tan's last general election. He's 84, I believe, and there's some expectation that, at some point he will want to retire and from very active politics. So potentially we could see a very strong PSP team with two NCMPs who have been gaining exposure in Parliament, plus also a bit of goodwill being extended through the Ayer Rajah faithful. Ayer Rajah, of course, being Dr. Tan Cheng Bock's old stomping ground when he was a member of Parliament for the PAP, and coming out in force to maybe give him a last hurrah as he contests his final election. So that those factors coming in, I think that the team that led by Sir Desmond Lee, they're doing good work from what I hear on the ground in terms of taking care of the GRC. The fact that the boundaries have been redrawn a little bit to bring in some parts of Jurong that typically was strong for the PAP as well. I think all these factors have to be taken into consideration. And I think it will be, again, one of those exciting spots to take a look at.
Let's take a look at the SMC contests as well. Long-term opposition party SDP's Dr. Chee Soon Juan will be contesting against PAP's Po Lee Sun, if I'm not mistaken. She's a new face in this election. Is this going to be an easy fight for SDP?
I think it's going to be interesting as well. This SMC is newly carved out. And as you mentioned, PAP's Po Lee Sun, who also happens to be an old friend of mine, she will be contesting in an SMC for the first time, stepping away from the Sembawang GRC, which she was part of after she joined politics in 2020. And I think that the upside is that she has been looking after Sembawang West constituency when she was part of the GRC team. So she's not new to the area. She has shared some plans about, improving things that ostensibly are what the residents in the area are keen on: infrastructure, affordable public health, and things like that. And of course, you then have the issue of SDP's Dr. Chee moving away from his previous sort of area in Bukit Batok because of shifts in the boundaries in those areas. Mm-hmm. And he's coming to a new area, which is, honestly, quite far away. Sembawang is really quite far away from Bukit Batok. So he's going to be new there. The thing is that he has been in Singapore politics for decades, so he's not a new face in that sense on the national scene, but potentially new to the residents in Sembawang West. And I think listening to some of his rhetoric and some of the things that he's been saying recent weeks leading up to today and polling day in 10 days' time, he's still very much focused on a counter-PAP narrative. He said you should vote for him or vote for the opposition to check on the PAP or to counter the PAP if you don't agree with what their policies are. What he actually is going to be doing for residents in the Sembawang West SMC, that's not entirely clear. And I think the issue potentially is, they will see him as an opposition voice, but will he have resonance with the residents on the ground? It's a little bit tricky, especially going out against Lee San, who has been active in the area for the past 5 years, a minimum as well. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be an easy fight for the SDP compared to, potentially some of the other more tricky constituencies that we are looking at, that we have mentioned already.
Certainly lots to look forward to in the coming days of campaigning. Nick, looking at the broader picture, the PAP has introduced over 30 new faces. Some are being moved into new constituencies. What do you think of this renewal strategy under PM Lawrence Wong?
I think it's something that certainly has been noted. The number of new candidates, I think, even before today, was already put out over 30, which is significant. If you think about, and it's not just the PAP, I would hasten to add that the opposition, including the WP, have also sought to bring in new people. And I think it's very much focused on trying to address what voters are looking for in this day and age. We have spoken, and I think in the news reports, there are a number of constituencies that are seeing a very large number of young voters, people in their 20s to below 45. And I think that their views and the way they perceive politics and politicians is certainly different from a generation or two ago. So you will see, and I think it's a good response from all the parties to start to adjust and shift and bring in people that people can connect a lot better with. Of course, we then have seen, we didn't have a chance to mention, but we've seen the sort of retirement of Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat, Senior Minister Teo Chee Hean, some of the old guard from the incumbent party and government. And I think, their experience, their leadership will surely be missed. But it is a clear sign that, as Prime Minister Lawrence Wong has said in a couple of speeches in the past few weeks, he is very much focused on renewal, refreshing, rejuvenation, and building a 4G team that is not just going to lead today, but will have the pipeline of talent coming in to form the leadership maybe in the next few election cycles to come. So he's planting the seeds early on already. Now, if we had, another half an hour, we could talk about what really works for voters. Is it a TikTok generation? Is TikTok videos and social media going to be the way for politicians to connect or not? That's certainly a question mark. Is it people who are much more similar in backgrounds to younger voters that will move the needle? Those will remain to be seen, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this, in the next few days and the next few years as well. But I think the new slate certainly shows impetus on both sides, both the incumbent and with the opposition parties, to start renewing and rejuvenating, which I think is a good thing for, the electorate is changing and evolving. Politics and politicians should evolve as well.
Nick, we are running out of time. There's so much to talk about. But between now and polling day on May 3rd, what are the key things voters should be watching?
I personally think, and obviously I can't speak for all voters, but we've talked about the hotspots. I think those will be very interesting to see what exactly happens. But I certainly hope to see is, on building on this notion of evolving politics, I hope to see a more gracious, respectful campaign on all sides. I think if we can see, moving away from personal attacks, character assassination type tactics to something a little bit more dignified, that would certainly help the country and the citizenry and politics to mature in a good way, in the right way. This is especially a concern if you look at politics in other countries, which seem to be degenerating into, very much emotions-based, very much personal and personality-based type of tactics and strategies. Especially with technologies, the digital space, social media coming into play. It's just very easy for these tactics to be deployed. I think that, one thing that most people would agree is that, on May 4th, we come back together as one country, small country, facing a slightly tricky global environment. So regardless of which side of the political divide we stand on in the next 9-10 days, I think hopefully we don't see any divisions being exacerbated or any sort of divisions being used for political gain that will make it hard for us to come back together as a country and move forward the day after elections.
All right, one last question before we let you go. If you had to sum up Nomination Day 2025 in one line, what does it tell us about where Singapore politics is heading?
I think one thing that, just looking in the conversations in the different chat groups I'm in, there are a lot of people talking about strategy and calculation. When you look at an opposition party like the Workers' Party, they have to start doing much more complicated calculations and strategy planning that used to be only have to be done by the PAP because they're growing in size. They're contesting in more areas, and what they do in one area, like Marine Parade, Bridal Heights, would have implications in Choa Chu Kang, will have implications in Punggol and things like that. So to me, that has been the standout thing to see that, again, as our politics mature and you see more pluralism in terms of the candidates and the parties, tactics have to evolve. It's not so simple to say, just vote for me to keep, X party out of parliament or from dominating parliament anymore. So very interesting. I think that's something I'm looking forward to watching in the next few days as well.
That's definitely more than one line, but thank you very much, Nick, for sharing your views with us this afternoon. Nicholas Fang, Managing Director of Strategic Consultancy Black Dot and a former NMP. Thank you.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.